Welcome to Powerboat Talk, the podcast where we talk everything performance boats with your host, Joe Road.
All right. Good evening, Ray. How you doing?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Good. I think I told you you're my first attempt at a video podcast or video recording podcast. So let's hope it all works out. So so thanks for being on. Known Ray for a while. Ray's got a really interesting gig as a publisher of really the only performance magazine that there is out there, at least in this country, Speedboat Magazine. So Ray, why don't you start off and kind of tell us, as a publisher, what you do and what's new and exciting and happening with the magazine right now.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Joe. We are Speedboat Magazine, and we are one of the last magazines, publications that produces a magazine on a regular basis. We print 9 issues per year, and we go to all the events and races and cover all the cool stuff in performance boating across the country. And I've got probably the best job in the world. I get to go to all these places that I'd love to go anyway if I wasn't working, and get to see and interact with some of the coolest people that you've ever met. You're always around the boats, around people having a good time with the boats. So everybody's always in a good mood. So, it's always a win-win whenever we go to cover an event, and it's hard to call it work. And again, I feel very blessed to be in this position.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yep.
So, what as a publisher, what's your day to day? What do you do?
So, like for instance, today, excuse me, we are trying to close out our first issue of 2023. We're working on our January-February issue, which is a bi-monthly issue. As I mentioned before, we do 9 issues a year, and from March through September, we go consecutive months because that's the busy time for the industry and for the community. So there's plenty of stuff to cover. Obviously, things tend to slow down a little bit in wintertime, and so we go bi-monthly. So it's September, October is a combined issue. November, December, which is out currently, is a combined issue, and we are going to print this week with the January, February of 2023, first issue of next year. So we go through all the pictures that we've taken at the event. So this one's going to be largely covering the Key West Poker Run and offshore races that happened in November, along with the Parker Enduro, which you're familiar with, that happened in the Parker Strip in Arizona, and a bunch of other stuff in between. And so it's a jam-packed issue. So we go over the images that our photographers, are very talented, stable photographers, take and bring back to us. And it's tough because there's so many good images, and we only have this much room to fit all that information into a story and get it out there. So we try and select the best pictures to represent the event and put that forward into the book.
And then you're kind of the ringmaster that kind of keeps it all going in the right direction. Or
I try to be, yeah, but we have a great staff, as you know. Brett Bain, who was the publisher way back in the Hot Boat days, he's still with us, and so he does a lion's share of the work and the writing. Chris Davidson is my partner in the magazine, and he's co-publisher, so he has his roles to play. And we have our art directors, and obviously, like I said, our photographers and videographers. I'm reviewing a video that our videographer Carter Body from Havasu put together for an overview of our Key West trip. Basically, what we like to do is to kind of do an overview video of each event that we go to, so that people can see what we see, the access that we tend to get, and kind of present that in one encapsulated video. So we're fine-tuning that, and that was my day-to-day, and probably the past week, and probably tomorrow and Friday. So.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking for. I've been one thing that's gotten Ray and I together recently is I've been fortunate enough that I've been doing a little bit of writing for Speedboat. It's been really fun just by happenstance. But I was looking for a photo for something I just did this month, and I was looking for a photo and didn't find one of the normal photographers that you guys had used, and I was looking for a particular photo, and I got on Facebook and I started looking, and I had no idea how many photographers there are out there now. I mean, I think at the Enduro, I think there was like 6 or 7 guys, and you go through their social media and they're all amazing. I'm like, I don't know how you pick.
It's very tough. Obviously, we have our group of regulars that we use, team members, of course. Guys like Todd Taylor, who's been with the magazine forever. He was back when it was Performance Boats Magazine, and even back with Chris when it was the Hot Boat Magazine days. So he's been with us forever. Tom Lee. He's a extremely talented photographer, and so he shoots for us quite a bit. And then we have Mark McLaughlin and Darren Van Wright and a bunch of these guys. And, it's just, it's tough to select because everybody's so talented out there. And you go to an event and everybody's got those big long lenses and they're shooting everything. And, it's hard to select each person, but it's also a lot of, their personalities, if we can all jive together, because basically we all know each other. It's a really small industry. Everybody tends to know everybody, if you've been around long enough, and that's a great thing. So, and it's just about personalities, if we can jive together, because obviously when we go on trips, we, get a condo and we have to room up for several days or a week together. And so, chemistry and getting along with one another is a huge portion of it. And then obviously, excellent photography.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. The book looks great. You guys have the bigger format, great paper, and
thanks.
So it's really like.
And I got to tell you, thanks to you, Joe. I appreciate your passion that you're bringing to your writing.
Thanks, man.
It's fresh and it's in depth, and you can definitely read the passion in the words that you've been writing. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I feel very blessed. So hope I can keep it up.
I hope so too.
It doesn't come naturally. It's a little bit of work, but it's fun. But yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. So
of course.
And then, as you know, I was 100 years ago. I was a publisher in the automotive industry, so I know that probably the not fun part is, you've got to pay the bills, right? So you've got to sell those ads and
right.
Talk about that a little bit. It's a little bit of a church and state thing, right? And
it is, yeah. So before because the print publication is kind of going away for a large part. A lot of the publications, they're preferring to go digital, and of course that's more cost effective because you don't have hard overhead costs. But we have, I think we found a niche in the industry, and people like to hold a hard copy and feel it, touch it, thumb through it, take it on the airplane with them, and leave it on the coffee table, and that never goes away. So with that, we've been blessed with that kind of support, but within the industry. Also in the, back in the heyday with the hot boat days and the powerboat days, you could sell a full page ad for, $5,000-$6,000. Those days aren't prevalent anymore. So yeah, we have to get pretty creative with it. And so what we've done, and I think fairly successfully over the past, several years, decade or so, we've went from primarily what was a West Coast publication and moved out east, and we're covering a lot of the East Coast events and gotten the support and the respect from a lot of the manufacturers that are out on the East Coast, such as MTI and Mystic and Outer Limits and Deep Impact, and so have you. It just goes on and on. Mm-hmm, and then obviously the 800-pound gorilla in the industry, be it Mercury Racing, their power is everywhere, on all of the performance boats. They're enjoying what we do, and so we've been working in a wonderful collaboration with them for 2022, and looks like we're going to be doing the same and more expanded role on that for 2023.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, there's still no matter how much publishing and digital gets prevalent, I mean, there's no guy wishes to have his magazine or have his boat. Their ultimate dream is to have their boat on a website. I
Yeah.
mean, they all want it in a magazine, and
Right.
there's nothing better. And guys just still love it, man. There's a lot of digital only, and we know one of your competitors is a digital only magazine, but they do a print version every year.
Right.
That sells like crazy.
And
So
it's very popular. Yeah.
yeah.
And they do a great job with it. And so, yeah, there really is a good market for the print publication still. I like to liken it to like the vinyl record. Everybody said that was gone. That's a dead medium. But everybody respects the vinyl record anymore, and collecting them. And people send me pictures of their man caves or their coffee living rooms with our book sprawled across.
Yeah.
And so that's very cool and rewarding. And it's always great to see it on the newsstands when we go into a West Marine or Barnes and Noble and see our publication on the rack. So
Wow.
it's cool to see that that basically the speedboating community can go pick up the book wherever they want to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know you were in West Marine. That's really good. That's really good.
No, it's
cool.
awesome.
Hey, I didn't even think about this, but then you brought it up a couple times. Can you kind of tell people how the speedboat came about and kind of morphed from the hot boat days?
Yeah. So basically what it was, Chris Davidson, he ran the Hot Boat magazine back in the 80s and was very popular, 80s and 90s, 2000s as well. And was a very popular magazine. Back in the day, it was, the two bigs, Powerboat magazine and Hot Boat magazine. And so Chris ran it under the Flint publication household, and did a really good job. It was everywhere. Everybody loved it. And then basically what happened was he and his brother were operating that, and they had a falling out, and Chris's brother kind of unceremoniously bought the magazine out from underneath Chris. So Chris started immediately afterwards. That was 2007, 2008. Immediately started Performance Boats magazine, and started to build that and put all its his efforts into that. That's when online forums were becoming popular. So we started that, based off the popularity of the Hot Boat forums, and then that's when I kind of came into the picture. He invited me onto the test team, driving boats and shuttling boats back and forth for their performance evaluations. And, we just kind of grew the magazine together. And then shortly afterwards, Hot Boat magazine went out of business. Powerboat magazine went out of business. A couple other ones came and went. And Performance Boats was kind of like the last man standing, if you will, as far as a print publication. So Chris was, kind of been there, done that, and so he goes, well, yeah, I think I'm going to sell the magazine. I'm like, you can't sell the magazine. I'm having too much fun driving the boats for you, And he goes, well, you should buy it. I'm like, you're crazy, I go, I don't know anything about publishing. He goes, yeah, but the industry and a lot of the players, and so it'd be a good fit. And so with that, I kept saying no for a better part of a year, and but what it actually did was kind of planted a seed in my head, and so I found myself like waking up in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, if I tweaked the magazine this way, if I did that, if I kind of pushed it out east, or ideas kept popping up in my head, and I'm like, okay, so that was almost a decade ago, and here we are.
Wow, it's been that
and then,
long. Wow.
Yeah. So then we ran with the Performance Boats magazine moniker for a while, but then Chris had sold the website, which again the online forums were doing very, very well, and an outside sporting website network wanted to buy performanceboats.com, and so for pretty penny, and so Chris sold it, and that's why the name changed from
changed to Speedboat. Okay.
To Speedboat, which he also owned at the time. The name speedboat.com, and so rather than keep funneling people to the Performance Boats website still that was owned by somebody else, we started kind of fresh, so that's kind of where we're at now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've had to I've told that story probably in a shorter version several times over the last few weeks when I've explained to people that I was doing some riding or whatever, and it's like,
Right.
who's Speedboat? I'm like, hey, Hot Boat, and then remember Chris had Hot Boat, like, you know,
Yeah.
people like, oh, okay, I got that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Kind
very,
of
very,
follow the breadcrumbs, but yeah, we get
yeah.
same place.
So that's cool. I didn't really know how you got started in it. So,
Oh yeah.
but you were helping on the test team.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I mean, I've been around the industry and the community for a long time. Started with Craft, you know, when I built my first custom boat in the early 2000s, I think, 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and just really fell in love with it. And Chris Kmar of Craft and I kind of became a poker run team together, you know, and so we would either run my boat or a factory boat and try and hit as many poker runs in a year as we could. Still staying on this side of the country, the West Coast, but still, you know, the more events I went to, the more um, passionate I became about everything, and so you know, it just grew from there.
Yeah. Interesting. Very
Yeah,
cool. You're very lucky.
yeah, I do, yeah, I know that I am.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And you know, and speaking of lucky, you know, I follow you obviously on social, and it's amazing how many events that you're gone all the time. I remember a couple weeks ago we were trying to get together on something. I think like 3 weeks in a row, right? You were like at Fort Lauderdale show, and then you were
Yeah.
at an offshore race, and then you had to go to Mercury for a press junket on the new V10 outboards,
Right. Uh-huh.
I believe. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And I was thinking about when I was going to have you on something that I mean, that's probably one of the funnest things about your job is getting to go to all these things, and you've probably seen every event. I know you go to Miami Boat Show every year, which is just a fantastic event to go if you're a boat guy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, maybe can you kind of talk to us about some of the most fun events you go to, and you know, for the guy that wants to go out and see some of the stuff and or
Yeah,
participate,
it's funny. That's an interesting question because every event kind of has its own niche and its own flavor of what you're looking for. Like you mentioned, the Miami Boat Show, obviously an amazing event with so many boats, and I mean it literally takes almost a full week if you want to see everything, and you still. If you started, you know, first thing in the morning and went till it closed, I don't know if you could still accomplish everything. So that's an amazing event, and that's spread out all throughout Miami in several different locations. So you really have to plan your visit. But so that's awesome. Um, One of my favorite events of the year is in August, the Lake of the Ozarks shootout, and that you
oh
know
yeah,
I tend to call that the Super Bowl of powerboating because it's towards the end of the season, and it seems like all of the manufacturers, a lot of the most of the passionate powerboaters show up to that event, and Lake of the Ozarks is probably the mecca of powerboating. You know, outside of offshore, it's you know there's so many waterways and so many things to do and places to go. Destination boating, you know, there's restaurants and bars all along the lake, so you can, you know, start one and just go and visit a bunch of cool different people with a group of people that are like-minded. So, and then you
uh,
see, you know, some of the fastest, baddest boats in the world running, you know, top speed passes in 3/4 miles, and you know, so that's always great to see. Um, other other events that come to mind. The Boyne Thunder event that's in Michigan. They have beautiful waterways. The weather's always nice and calm, and sometimes they, you know, the weather gets or the water conditions get pretty bumpy. So that's always makes for great photography. Um,
now that's a poker run, right?
it's a poker run, right?
But
And
and Boyne City, isn't Boyne City like way north, like way
it
north
is,
side of? Yeah,
yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
so, but it's
And the
beautiful, and
and the weather's nice. Wow.
weather's always kind of mild, you know. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
we have to
Wow.
bring jackets in the middle of summer, which is rare for us, you know.
Uh huh. Uh-huh.
Um, every year we go to the Texas Outlaw Challenge, which is awesome. They have a shootout as well. Um, Obviously, Desert Storm, which is on this side of the coast in Lake Havasu City every April. That just got bought by a new um, management team with Jim Russell, who's been running events in Havasu forever, and so he's gonna try and revamp the event and make it you know, kind of back how people remember it from years ago when it was uber popular. And gosh, I could go on and on.
Yeah, the Desert Storm has their street fair. They kind of it's kind of a week-long thing, right? They have a shootout and they have a poker run.
They generally start on Wednesday with charity rides and for underprivileged kids or kids with afflictions, and that's always a cool thing because boaters they come and donate their time and their boats to run these kids around the lake, and they come down a little nervous and such, and they get in the boats and they get they start to take off and they come back with the biggest smiles on their faces. And so
awesome.
It's really rewarding for the boat captains and always obviously the kids that go for rides, and it's always cool to see them come back and see how much they enjoyed it. So that's what usually kicks off that event. Then the Thursday street party was world famous. It's probably the biggest. Out of all the events we've been to, that's still probably one of the biggest street parties.
Is it? Is it? Okay. Yeah, that's one of my favorite one. I really like it. Nice thing is you could come and just hit it for a day, and it's it's pretty cool. But I see in the magazine, like I've never been to like Boyne City or some of the other ones, but they all seem to kind of have their street affairs, and they all look really big, but maybe it's just the pictures.
Yeah, well, I mean, they all, like I said, they all have their own flavor to it, and it's great. The Boyne City street party is awesome. They kind of crisscross, and they, being Michigan, the auto capital of the world, they have a lot of muscle cars that line the streets as well. And beautiful backdrop of the lake and such, and so that's always great. The Lake of the Ozarks shootout street party that they line on the strip by the dam this last year was probably the biggest I'd ever seen it, and definitely would rival the Lake Havasu street party.
So going back to Lake of the Ozarks, which a lot of people just refer to it as Lotto,
right?
Is that something? Is there good spectator seating or places they can see it on the shore? Or do you need to get out in a boat, or what's a good way to watch that?
The best viewing I would say would be on a boat out in the lineup, and so that especially on the day one of racing, which is that Saturday because it's a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. The lineup is just massive. I mean, so we usually shoot from the bluff across the way, so we can see the extent of how far it spans, and it's miles. I mean,
really,
the actual course is only 3/4 mile, right? So you got your start in front of the start buoys, and then the slowdown out at the end buoys, and it's just miles beyond that, and miles beyond that the other way, and
wow.
and then that becomes so crowded. Then there becomes rows, so you get this big long front row, and then a equally long second row, third and fourth, and it's pretty impressive to see.
And then have a 200-mile-an-hour 50-foot boat buzz you.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, I mean, Mystic's 51-foot American ethanol boat, this year, 8th consecutive time, and like you said, running over 200 miles an hour in 3/4 mile, it's very impressive, and don't know who can topple them because from what I understand, Don Onken and the team are powering up to get more horsepower underneath those hatches, so. It'll be fun to
he's
see
already. I talked to him for a story, and he already had the third one on the dyno. They're waiting. They haven't been able to get parts for the fourth engine, but I think the engines. He runs four big blocks. I can't remember what they were, 600-inch motors or whatever, but they're like 2250 a piece. Right. The new ones are going to be like 2550 a piece. He's like, that extra 1,000 should get me another. He's trying to get another 10 miles an hour, but
he is so impressive. And if you've spoken to him, he's super understated, but super passionate, right? And so every year after he wins, I always ask him the same question. I go, so Don, are you happy now? And he always gives me the same response. He goes, well, I'm happy, but I ain't satisfied. so that just goes to him going out back to the drawing board and developing more power somehow. So it's always fun to see what Don's gonna bring
It's
the next
amazing.
year.
But when I did talk to him, I kind of felt the same what you were saying about Lotto. It was like, wow, this is it now. This is really kind of the big time out here, and that's cool. That's really cool.
For sure. And yeah,
So,
like you said, bucket list item. I think it's a bucket list item for any speedboater because of the different things you can do. I mean, just experience all the miles of waterways and places to stop in, dock up, and go have lunch, drinks, whatever. Not the captain, of course, but just have a good time and experience the whole lake and all the different cool venues. One of our large advertisers and supporters is Performance Boat Center, and their facility out there is just amazing. And we did
I can imagine. Yeah.
a video walkthrough with Mercury Racing and Brett Manier, co-owner of the facility, and just saw the inner workings of the entire facility, and that was super impressive. So now I think this year we're gonna put that to pages and make it a feature in the book, because I think everybody just needs to read about it and learn about it, because it's such a cool operation. And there's another one out there, Big Thunder Marine, also one of our advertisers, and they do a great job. They've got multiple different locations, and it's just good stuff out there. It really is impressive.
Very cool. Yeah, I hope I get there one of these days. But yeah, it's a good bucket list one.
Yeah.
How about other forms of racing? What else have you've probably been to plenty of those? What do you enjoy, or what can you say about some of those things?
Yeah. So I mean, we're just coming off the Key West offshore poker run. Presented by Race World Offshore, and there's obviously different organizations that put on offshore races, Race World being one, OPA being another, P1 Offshore also. But so that's fresh on my mind. But not only that, we covered all, the circle boat races, the
Did you do
like
the F1 boats at Havasu?
Pardon me?
Did you do the F1 boats yet?
Yes,
Okay, those are always fun.
Yeah, and Tim Siebold, he's done a great job bringing that back on Lake Havasu, and we were there for its initial event last year, and they did it again this year, and it's just very cool, and I hope it grows. We definitely are looking to keep supporting it along with Mercury Racing, and so it's just good stuff.
Awesome. What's the now back in the offshore races? Because where are they at? They race at Key West, and where else do they race back
so
there?
OPA has I think the most active schedule. They race primarily on the East Coast, Florida stuff, but Key West, Clearwater. I think Race World is adding a new event to their schedule this year, starting in late April in Marathon. That'll run in the Florida Keys. There's a couple races. There's one race in Lake of the Ozarks. There's the Sarasota Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach is usually the
awesome.
season opener with OPA and P1, and that one's always amazing, and it's just great. And then it's because starting with Lavycraft, they had a factory one, a race boat back then, and I was involved with the team and helped throughout with that, and so I kind of know the inner workings of putting a team together. Of course, some of these teams are just miles away from that, like the Class 1 guys, but and then we got superstars coming into the sport like Travis Pastrana. He's enjoying the heck out of it, and Team MCon, who was a Class 1 boat, just got announced that they're going to be stepping up to Class 1, and they've got Monster Energy on as a sponsor. So it's I think it's right on the cusp of possibly breaking into the big time, where it's going to be nationally known and globally known, and hopefully some of these racers will be will earn the recognition and star power that I think they deserve, because it's crazy going out in those conditions sometimes. And the water's always changing, and so you can never predict. And yet, the homework that they do with setting up, their race boats for according to the conditions, based on whatever data they had from their testing, or for instance, to bring up MCon again, team owner Tyler Miller and I had a good conversation in Key West, and it was actually an interview. He was telling me that he's a real data guy, so he takes whatever data that they retrieve from their computers, and he puts that, it takes full credence in that and wants to initiate that into their setup. His race partner Myrick Coyle, who also runs Performance Boat Center's Superstock boat and is also one of our test team drivers. He's a feel guy, right? So he goes out and he feels, well, I think we should try this. I think this might work better, because he's got a ton of experience and knowledge. And between the two, they kind of meet in a happy medium.
Oh, that's good.
And the result, national and world championships. So it's
awesome.
It's stories like that that's very cool. You got guys like, let's say, SV Racing, also a Super Cat, Vinny Diorio. He's the owner. Well, he's one of the owners of the team. They kind of split it, and he's the throttleman, and he's little firecracker, and he gets all amped up, and his race partner is a big Canadian, Simon Prevost, and he's more of the big, kind of calm. So I always ask them, what their relationship is like in the cockpit, and Vinny always says he gets fired up. He's like dropping F-bombs, and Simon's just cool as can be, and then they end up doing well, or they go back to the pits, and Vinny more times than not is apologizing for so it's relationships like that that's very cool to me. It's the human aspect of it, and I think people are starting to get it. I did see a couple of video crews preparing stories to cover that, not so much the racing, but the personalities behind the racing. I understand one of those shows is going to be pitched to Netflix, so I hope, knock on wood, hope they get picked up, because I think that world needs to be seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. When you said that, I mean, I don't know if are you into F1? Have you gotten into the whole F1 carnival now?
I'm getting my feet wet with it for sure.
Because I'll tell you that Netflix show, I mean, that's what hooked me during the pandemic. I've always was a casual fan, but during the pandemic, when you had some time to watch, you watch that, and it just draws you in because of that, the personalities. You really just start getting to know, not only the drivers, but the principals and it was really cool. I mean, I'm so hooked now. I don't miss F1. I don't miss an F1 race, or I got F1 podcast. And so, hopefully, and I always say that my brothers are all NASCAR fans, and I've never been a big NASCAR fan, but I'm like, why is NASCAR is not calling up Netflix going, man, do that same thing. You know what I mean? Do that same thing for us. So that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool if I got in the boat.
I definitely hope that all forms of, boat racing reaches the next level, because I think all these guys deserve the recognition, and because a lot of these teams, especially the smaller teams, the bracket classes and the stock classes, they're doing it purely out of a passion for it. They have a couple of small sponsors, if that, and they go all over the country and they thrash their equipment every weekend, and come back purely for the love of the sport. So I definitely hope that the entire sport grows, all the way from Class 1, who's the pinnacle, all the way down to the bracket classes, because all those guys are superstars.
Yeah, and the thing about boat racing, it's at any level of boat racing, I mean the denominator is, or the X factor is your water. You're in a movable surface. You're at a changing condition, and there's no other desert, maybe, but other than, I mean, these other aspects, the data, it's just so data driven, and I mean, you're taking hundredths of a second out of a corner or whatever, because you don't have that changing conditions, other than a rain or whatever. But boy, we've seen it a million times. We've been around this enough times to see there's a lot of crazy, getting out of shape and crashes, and it's so these guys are really they're
well, that's just it, right?
Pretty tough, wild guys.
Yeah, not only the conditions, but I mean, when the most experienced of the experienced, get out of shape and can flip a boat, then it's not just get out there and wing it and fake it. The best can get out of shape. So it's definitely separates the men from the boys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And and definitely you mentioned Travis Pastrana. I think that's he's probably done quite a bit for moving things ahead a little bit. He runs the P1 series. That's I can't remember. Is it the P1 class where it's like a single engine V bottom?
Yeah. So
I know he drives both boats. He drives
I think it's the modified V, and he runs. I think he's the throttleman for that boat, opposite stuntman Jim York and those guys, on their social media, man.
Oh my
gosh,
gosh,
so comical.
that's what I was going to bring up.
They'll release videos of their cockpit chatter, and it's just gold, right? And so
Absolutely.
I mean, so it's personalities like that again that need to be seen, and thanks to Travis for bringing the spotlight with him, so that hopefully more of these teams can be visible and accessible.
Yeah, he's getting TV time. I just happened to see one weekend, and I taped it, and I taped the series, and I looked the other night. I have like 6 of them now, so he's getting some. They're getting some TV time for that, so that's really good.
Yeah, for sure.
So, hey, you did something. Was it at Lotto last year? Didn't you take a ride in the Mystic or one of the?
Yeah, that was not this year, but last year. They usually have a testing session. And that's when the Onken Racing brings the boat out, and the team, be it Mystic owner John Kosker, who runs the throttles, and driver Tony Battiato, they get into the boat probably for the first time since the previous year, and they run the boat and try to get their feel for it again. So last few years, we were lucky enough to be invited to come, check out their testing sessions. So we've been doing it for a few years. We get to the test facility last year, and somebody had asked me, he's like, "Oh, you want to jump in for a ride?" And I was like, my jaw hit the ground. I'm like, "Are you kidding? You're joking. Don't mess with me like that, right?" They're like, "No, we're serious. If you want to go for a ride, you can go for a ride." I'm like, "Hell yes, sign me up." So I mean, they couldn't get me into that boat fast enough. I mean, it was so cool, and just all these thoughts running through my head. I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. And so we get in, they fire that thing up, and it's mean sounding, and I get in the seat. There's a back seat behind John Kosker, which is on the port side of the boat, and I can see out the window and such. And so there's a whole checklist of things that they do before getting that thing up, and we're idling out, and it's great. And so we get the boat up, and they had told me that they were gonna take me up to about 120 or something like that, and so I'm like, come on, this thing goes 200 miles an hour. Let's go more. But anyway, they did. They took me up to 120 or 150. I can't remember what it was, but it was awesome. And I think I recorded it and posted it online on our Speedboat Facebook page. And it was a great thing, but they ended up hurting the engine at some point during that test run. So they take it back to their dock over at Captain Ron's and get to work to figure out what it is. And so obviously they ended up getting the boat running and secured their 7th Top Gun title last year. So this year we go there, and I'm like, "Are you guys testing this year?" And Don Onken tells me, he's like, "Oh, no, we're not going to test this year. You broke my boat." He blamed it on me. So I thought that was funny. Of course, he was joking, but that was great. Yeah. And of course, they ended up doing awesome.
Yeah. Doing, and you'll be there next year at that same dock.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Don will probably use the same line.
Yeah.
So I broke his boat 2 years ago.
Oh, so. that had to be fun. That had to be fun.
Yeah, but their entire crew is just great. I mean, JR and Mike White and all these guys that just, there's so many people that are passionate about it, and everybody really comes together, and they're just down to earth guys, and they talk to everybody. Obviously they've got the spotlight on them because they're king of the hill right now and have been for the last 8 years. So.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody else I talked to several of the other guys for a story I did, and every one of them, that's all they talk about is getting him. Like, that was it. That's what they're going after. So,
right. Yeah.
And I was really surprised too when I asked Don. I'm like, so do you use the boat for anything else? Where do you go? He's like, no, this is it. He goes, in fact, it's so fast, I have no place to test all year. So this is it. And I'm like, wow. So you spent all this time, money, and like, talk about rolling the dice, man. That's ballsy.
Right.
And then to be that successful, doing it for 8 years, it's pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So.
And to get that big of a boat moving that fast in that shorter distance, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Very cool. So tell me, I mean, it can't all be roses. What's a real challenging thing about your job?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the toughest part is getting advertisers on board, issue after issue, year after year. We need to keep providing a value to them, and I'm not naive to the fact that you just sign up with us and you get an ad in the book and you'll sell hundreds of boats. I know it doesn't work like that, and especially in this day and age where the attention span is so short and whatever else. And so my team and I we're real heavy on the social media. So all of our advertisers, they get the social media support, which we have quite a large following. I think we're up to like close to 400,000 organic followers. Wow. That none that we pay for, between Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So that helps because eyeballs on that kind of stuff, and and then we always like to have our partners included in our photo shoots and have them bring us their latest and greatest. In Key West, Randy Sism and Taylor Sism, they brought us their brand new 44 foot pleasure cat, and that was amazing. And so I got to go for a ride in that one, and just for a boat that big, powered by a pair of 450 outboard engines, very impressive. And it just they do great work over there. But back to your question, it's that stuff, trying to get advertisers, trying to come up with fresh angles to present a story. Sometimes the travel can be tedious, even though it's great. This year I think we traveled more than any other year, and thanks to our collaboration with Mercury Racing, which was great, and we enjoyed every bit of it, and it was very beneficial to us. And so I'm really looking forward to next year, where Mercury Racing will be celebrating their 50th anniversary. So we have a few more events.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. That's going to be fun. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So we have a few more events on the schedule than we did this year. But no, other than the daily grind with the non-glamorous stuff where I'm stuck at this desk, reviewing copy and revising pictures and trying to sell ads and trying to get people to call me back or email me back and that kind of stuff. That's the not so fun part about the job. But I mean, all of it, the benefits of it far outweigh the tedious stuff. And so I'll never complain openly about the job, because it's a dream job.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, it certainly looks fun, and you're. I can understand. You're trying to you're collecting that money from them, but you're giving them back as much value as possible, and that's definitely the way to do it, and definitely the way to make people feel that you care more than just taking their check. You're trying to grow their business at any angle you can, any way you can. So
thanks.
It's very cool if you do that. That's the way to do it.
And a lot of the revenue after we pay, the bills that we need to pay, like to keep the printing press running and such, and the postage that just seem to be going up and up.
Oh.
After that, we invest largely the additional revenue right back into our what we do. So I mean, that be it our travel expenses, our helicopter fees, wherever we go, and try and get the best possible coverage, um, the best possible images, to continue to, stay on the cutting edge and bring our readers and subscribers the best of the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks great. I've
Thanks, Joe.
got them laying all over my house now, especially. But no, you're doing a great job. And so other than the more collaboration with Mercury, you got anything new with the magazine? Any promotions or anything else you want to tell people about?
Yeah, so I mean, last October we do our performance evaluations for the West Coast manufacturers, and that's always a great event. We fly Myrick Coil out from Lake of the Ozarks, and we have our lead testing driver, industry legend Bob Teague, and they run through the boats. We do 2 days of testing, which is first days what we call our dry land inspection, where the manufacturers, I think we had 11 boats come this year. But the boats come to our facility, the Nautical Resort in Lake Havasu City, and we set up a base camp where the manufacturers come and bring us their boats. And between Myrick and Bob, they go through the boat, make sure it's mechanically sound, and they inspect the production of the boat, the rigging, the overall quality of how the boat was built on trailer. And then the next day at sunrise, pre-dawn, we have everybody ready and staged until the sun comes up, and then we have the helicopter overhead, and then we photo and video them, and then proceed right into the boat testing, where we have a test book with a whole battery of lists and items and exercises to bring the boats through, and and then report them as honestly as we can, and publish them. So that'll be coming out in our next issue after the January, which will be March 2023. So we're kind of fine tuning that as well, getting all the reports together, because it's a whole production that we do out there in Lake Havasu, and a lot of moving parts, and to bring everything together, we're starting to work on that as well. And then, of course, getting ready for the Miami Boat Show in February. That'll be my next traveling, I think. Unless something pops up beforehand. But, other than that, and hit the ground running after that, it seems like, once you kind of push the rock down the hill, it just gains momentum, and then you just got to stay on top of it.
Yeah. Did you guys just build a new website?
We did. Well, we revamped it. We've had the speedboat.com for a while. But I just wanted a fresher look to it, and so I think it looks cleaner. We're still learning the bells and whistles of it, and so we haven't made a full push into directing people there 100% yet. But once we learn all the finer points of the website, then it'll be full bore, and I think it'll be really, really good.
Cool. Well, so the name of the game is get people to subscribe.
Yeah.
So how do they do that?
Speedboat.com. Easiest way, they can call the office as well, but the easiest way is speedboat.com. And, the store is open. The subscription is real easy. You just sign up and you can pay for all your stuff right there. We have back issues available here at the office. So, if there's an issue that you missed that, hey, my boat was, in the boat, May 2017 issue and nobody told me about it, we have that here. So, contact us through the website or phone number, and we can help you out. But so we appreciate every subscription. That helps us keep doing what we do, and we just hope to have a bigger, better year in 2023.
Yeah, awesome. And then you're on social. You're on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
Speedboat.
SB Mag on Instagram, and Speedboat Magazine. 2 different pages. Speedboat Magazine on Facebook. One's the group and one's the page. So you can find us on either. Right. And we post there daily. So all the
and
contents.
You do, and Ray does some really good Facebook Lives. I've seen a lot of good interviews with that. So
thank you.
They're great follows. So. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time and
Thank you,
and
Joe.
humor me with being the test pig for test bunny for this first one. So hopefully it comes out okay. But I appreciate it. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
And
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks,
All
Joe.
right. Take care, man.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Powerboat Talk. If you like what you've heard, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more Powerboat Talk, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website at powerboattalk.com.